Got my 93 LX in here, and today I'm putting in some axles and some tie rods, but I wanted to cover some of these topics that come up all the freaking time. So the first one is getting the axles out, and the second one is the speed sensor. So the speed sensor lives right there. This guy right here, that's the speed sensor. The cable runs up to the speedo, and there's an electrical connector there that tells the PCM that the vehicle's moving, so it'll slightly raise the idle when the car's not completely parked. So this is one of the most difficult and commonly talked about problems here. So there's a clamp. Jeez, there's a clamp right here, which is held in by a 10mm bolt, and then you have the speed sensor. So that thing's just chilling in there, and it's sealed by an O-ring. Now what happens is, over time, you get all of this crap that gets around the edge there, and sometimes it'll corrode. So what you want to do here, now the purpose of this is, you know, just like the axles, man, this thing should come right out. Now it's got an O-ring and some crap in there, but you don't need to, you know, really jacophosaur it or pry on it or bend it. You know, the first thing that I always do is see if it'll even move. All right, so this one's loose. What you can do is get some PB Blast or something and kind of spray it around the base so it can go down into that O-ring. There's no real easy way to do this, but this one just comes right out. See, just grab a hold of it. Wish I had better camera gear here, but okay, so there's the sensor. That's all there is to that. Now the transmission fills through that hole. So if you're going to be doing axles, you better make sure that you can get that sensor out before you pull the axles, or you're going to be in a tough spot. So the axles, they're, you know, this stuff is really easy, really easy. You got your ball joint here, you got your axle nut here. And what I do is take the nut off, and then take my hammer and pound the axle. And sometimes the axle itself, the splines, will adhere to the inside of the bearing hub. So I'll usually spray it down. You can kind of see it's a little wet there. Spray it down with some PB Blaster, and then smash it in with the hammer, because you want to make sure that you can actually get the axle loose from the hub before you spend all of this time proceeding. So let's look at this axle here. Now, some of them had ABS, some of them didn't. Now, the aftermarket manufacturers made these all, for the most part, with ABS, because it's easier, cheaper for them to make one piece. So you got your nut. They will usually always come with a nut. You got your splines, which are drive. Here's the tone ring. You can see this one here doesn't have it. Typically, those are just a press fit. You can just tap it off with a hammer. Doesn't make a bit of difference if you leave it on there or not. Now, the shape of this is a little bit different than the factory, because like I mentioned, it's cheaper for them to make one aftermarket part than it is to make several, you know, for different years, models, trims, ABS, non-ABS, stuff like that. So here we got the backside. This is just a dust seal. That's all it is. The axle seal rides on this surface here. Then you got your drive splines, and then you have the C-clip. Now, this is the biggest problem that people face here, not only getting the axle in, but getting the axle out. So we'll talk about getting it out here in a minute, but when you're putting it in, this thing just kind of flops around, and you can see how that could be a problem, because this has to go through the side gear, the drive side gear, which looks sort of like this. This is a diff carrier out of a Dana 30 out of a Jeep, but same principle. It's just the differential. So you can see down in there we got our cross pan, which runs through to hold the spider gears and the side gears. So this one doesn't have what we're talking about here, but you can see the problem here is when you shove the axle in, that C-clip, if it's hanging down too far to one side, it's almost impossible to get it to go back into that hole. So we can use an ancient Sumerian trick here. So you could even use something like Seal Glide or bearing grease, or this is my favorite. It's Lube Guard, but it's used to be called Dr. Tranny's goo, which is a real tacky, real viscous grease. So you could take this, stick some in this hole, and then put that C-clip in a place where it's gonna stay there. Now this is gonna aid installation, because the grease is going to hold that clip in place. Now that's the easiest way to do it, because otherwise you're just going to be fighting you know, pounding on it, banging on it, trying to get that thing to seal. Okay, so next part here is getting the axles out. So on this side, we got pretty easy access to it. Now this topic comes up all the time in the forums, the group, Facebook. People are like, oh, I can't get it out. And then they got a picture and they got 5 different pry bars and, you know, screwdrivers, and they're beating on it and pounding on it and, you know, all of the above. So you're not, the trick here is it actually sits in there like this. You want to push it straight this way so you can collapse that C-clip and release the axle. The problem that people have is when you start prying on it and bending on it and jamming stuff in there, you're actually, you know, cocking the thing off to the side. And I'll show you that more here on the driver's side. So this is, you know, this stuff's pretty easy here. So you just want to get your pry bar. There's even a nice little pry spot for it there. If I can get this up in or see if I can do this with one hand. And then we just pull on it a little bit. See? Just comes right out. Easy peasy. Come on, left hand. See? That's it. So the driver's side is the one that always has the biggest problems. Now, if I could zoom in here, because my light sucks here, but this is gonna make it flashy. But okay, so here's the transmission. I got the cross member out, sitting right there. You know, there's no jacks or poles or anything. I'm gonna replace these mounts. Also, so typically what you'll see is people will have, you know, screwdrivers and pry bars and, you know, screwdrivers and pry bars and, you know, all sorts of different combinations of stuff. But, you know, like I just mentioned, all you want to do is, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this with one hand, but same principle. You just get the var. Okay, I'm gonna have to put this down for a second. All right, so crap. Can we see it through here? Maybe. Okay, so you can see the axle there has those 3 little lobes on it. That's where the ball bearing actually rides. So you can see how I got my pry tool in there. It's just, you know, it's just barely chilling in there. It's not really wedged in there or anything. So all we got to do is just give it a little, see, just like that, just a little pop. It comes right out. Now, if you're fussing with this and, you know, banging on it, prying on it, and jamming, pounding screwdrivers and stuff in there, come on, camera guy. You're not getting the right angle at it. It's all about the angle. Because remember, if we go back to our picture here, our piece, we're fighting to get this C-clip. So you want to pull it straight out, not bend it or twist it or, you know, make it go all jalopy and stuff like that. So I'm not going to show the rest of this because I should be able to figure out how to get the axles out from here. But that's what I wanted to show. Just the 2 most common stuff's really easy. The biggest problem that people have is, well, it's bad advice, to be frank with you. Bad advice and people hearing things that they've heard over the years and, you know, perpetuating a narrative that's not right. You know, it's that old saying, it's not what you know that's the problem, it's what you think you know that's wrong that's the problem. So, yeah, I just showed you. Now, there's no special tricks or anything right here. I mean, it's literally a Harbor Freight pry bar from, you know, I don't even know, a long time ago. Let's say 2002. It's one of my first tools I ever bought. So no trickery, no nothing. You know, if you don't have a lift, well, that's a whole different problem. But you can still do this on the ground with jack stands, and that's how I learned how to do it. You just have to get the right angle at it. You know, if you're coming in through here, it's not the right angle. You got to get it from the backside. Now there is another couple tools you could try using, something like this. You know, a little I don't know what they call these. It's like a nail puller deal, but you can kind of get that behind there. Jesus, sorry about this camera work, guys, but you know, there's multiple different ways. But like I just showed you here, you know, it's a $5 pry bar, and it took me, you know, 20 seconds with one hand to do it. So hope this helps somebody.